Hey, hey, hey. Alrighty. Come on, Instagram. Be good to me. There we go. It's working now. Alrighty. How's everybody doing? Oh my goodness. Okay. Hot news. I know I don't normally come back twice in one day, but I had to come back given what we just saw a few minutes ago. If you did not see it, let me let you know what happened because something major just happened. So Donald Trump just had a press conference in which, honestly, if I were to boil it down, it was an unconditional surrender. Now, interestingly, it was not an unconditional surrender of Iran. No, it sounded like an unconditional surrender by the United States and likely Iran. I'm sorry, and likely Israel. So let me get into this because that was very interesting. Come on in. So listen, Trump just went on TV. You remember how when Trump first came out and announced this war a little over a week ago, and he made that video in the middle of the night, and he had on the USA cap, and he came on out there and he was saying, we are going to war. He specifically used that word war in describing what was happening. Well, today he didn't do that. Today he called it an excursion. I don't know about you, but last time I went on an excursion, I was literally like on vacation and I was like going someplace and getting souvenirs or some shit. But he was calling it an excursion. All right. And interestingly, he came out to have this press conference where he's now downgraded the war that he unilaterally declared on the very first day to an excursion. He also admitted that he just got off a call with Vladimir Putin for the past hour. Interesting. Don't you find that interesting? The same Vladimir Putin that has been given Iran intelligence about where our troops are located, that Vladimir Putin? Oh, okay. So he was on a call with that Vladimir Putin for the past hour, and all of a sudden he comes out to declare victory. Okay. All of a sudden he comes out and says, well, really what we wanted to do was they were about to strike with nuclear. They were almost finished creating a nuclear weapon. Really? Pinocchio. Overweight Pinocchio. I got the overweight lover. He's the overweight Pinocchio. Okay. So Mr. Overweight Pinocchio, you mean to tell me that a few months ago when you said you obliterated their nuclear capabilities, something that literally took them years to get to the point where they had gotten as close as they got before you went in there and supposedly obliterated it? Since from then to now, they've gotten to the point where they were just about a few days away from creating a nuclear weapon. We supposed to believe that? Oh, we supposed to believe that? Okay, that's the excuse now. That's the story what we're going with now. Because when you first came out with your little white hat, cosplaying as a little, I don't know, club, little sort of Mar-a-Lago tough guy, with your little USA hat, you said that you were going to war because you wanted regime change. That's what you said that first night that you came out. You said you want a regime change. And then a couple of days after that, you said, and you are going to pick the next person. You are going to personally pick the next leader of Iran. Now here we are. A few days later, stuff ain't going to plan. Okay. American assets have been obliterated all across the region. want to talk about obliteration? Why don't we talk about the American bases that's been obliterated? Why don't we talk about the U.S. embassies in that part of the world that have been obliterated? The consulates in that part of the world that have been obliterated. Why don't we talk about that? Because to the degree that they are attacking these neighboring countries, that's really the target, y'all, by the way. Okay? So we've lost billions of dollars worth of institutions, infrastructure, literally billions of dollars worth of supplies and all of that stuff gone. In addition to all that they're spending every day just in the commencement of the war between trying to shoot down, things with drones and trying to shoot others. Oh my God. So anyway, I'm getting a little diverted, but here's what happened. So he comes out and he says, well, a few days ago, it was about regime change, but now it's about they almost had a nuclear bomb again, even though, according to you, they almost had a nuclear bomb 8 months ago when you said that you obliterated it and set it back centuries. Now, though, you're saying, yeah, we definitely set it back. Yes, we did. It'll be years. It'll be years. So we've pretty much done what we wanted to do. Absolutely. And so it'll be over. It's winding up now. Oh, really? Well, I'll say this, I'm glad that you are winding it up because this was a dumbass thing to do in the first place. But here is what I will say, okay? It is not easy to put genies back in the bottle once you have let them out. It is not easy to put genies back in the bottle after you have let them out. You remember a few days ago when he just first started, he was saying, oh, well, we want to get rid of because, these people are so horrible to their people. And we want the people to rise up and we're going to eliminate their leader. And then the people can rise up. Remember when he said that? Well, he didn't say nothing about that. Now he's talking about the nuclear war, but the nuclear weapons, and he stopped that. But here is the challenge. In the midst of, even if you're going to go with that lie, which I don't, okay? But even if you're going to go with that lie, what did you do in the commencing of that? You have killed the 86-year-old political and religious leader of that country, only to replace him by his 52-year-old son, who by all descriptions is even more radical than his father was. And you've replaced him with someone who now has personal vengeance in mind because you just killed his father and his wife in the commencement of this war. So you think now that you and your best friend Putin have one thing I will say, at least Putin can, I will say one thing, whatever if Putin says jump, Trump will say how high. This we know. If Putin says jump, Trump will say how high. So today, apparently Putin said, what the hell are you doing? Get the fuck out of Iran. So guess what? We're packing up and we're getting the fuck out of Iran. Now, like I said, I don't have a problem with that. However, it's not going to be as easy as he is claiming. Because now they have a situation where the American forces planted a Tomahawk missile into a elementary school, killing 170 some little girls. Now, just because you found out that this was not going to be an easy pushover, like apparently your dumbass thought it was going to be, do you think those people are just going to forget that? Now that your buddy Netanyahu has shut up their oil refineries, causing an environmental disaster there, where they can't even breathe clean air, and have shut up their water filtration abilities, so they can't even have access to fresh water. This is a human rights atrocity, if you ask me, because people need to be able to breathe and people need to be able to drink water to live. And that's something that impacts millions of people, not just people who are part of the army, right? That's a human rights issue. So you think now that you have gotten so far out of over your skis, where you see that oil is now being priced at $130 per barrel. You see that the stock market has plunged. You see that your best boy, Putin, your daddy Putin, has told you to stop. And so because you Putin's, I'm not going to say what I want to say, but when I get my podcast, I'm going to be completely unfiltered, okay? You are bending over and doing what Putin tells you to do, so you're getting ready to pull out, no pun intended. So I'm like, okay, what makes you think that Iran is done? What makes you think they finished? You can declare victory and try to then put this thing to an end. Try to get the Straits of Hormuz opened again. Try to get the stock market settled again. Try to make Daddy Putin happy with you again. You can do that. But what makes you think Iran's going to be down with the program? Because here's what I will see. A couple of things are happening. American media is very, very, very censored. You are not seeing a lot of what's happening over there. You might notice if you watch CNN, I don't care what you watch over here, if you're watching American news only, but if you're watching American news only, you're watching CNN or MSNBC or MS Now or Fox even or any of those, you know that the Israeli government is allowing them to show you what's happening on the ground in Israel. But if you have other sources of information, you will see that their Iron Dome has failed and they've been getting pummeled. They have been getting pummeled. Tel Aviv is looking a lot like Gaza right about now. So all I'm saying is Trump and Netanyahu was not prepared for the whoop ass that they opened up. Because here's what I can tell you. The Iranians have been preparing for this for decades. They knew this day would come. So they had stockpiles on top of stockpiles on top of stockpiles. They were ready. They had technology that y'all dumbasses did not know they had. And guess what? Trump, your predecessors had enough sense to understand the implications of doing this in the first damn place, which is why they chose not to. Dumbass. Now that you have gone out there playing tough guy, what are you going to do to bring those 170 some little girls back to life? What are you going to do to bring those 7? And I'm thinking maybe I'm hearing now that it may even now be 8 American soldiers that have been killed back to life. What are you going to do? You cannot just put the genie back into the bottle. Not to mention what you have riled in that nation. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. No pun intended. But you have no clue what's going to happen now with this new leadership that now has an increased reason to hate you, to hate us as Americans, to put our lives in danger in terms of potential terror cells, because he wants to get vengeance due to the fact that his daddy and his wife were murdered by you know who, the idiot in the White House who wants to play tough guy, but can't even put 2 brain cells together to try to figure out what the fuck the implications will be when he goes out there like he's fucking John Wayne or some shit. It is infuriating. His lack of thinking and his lack of ability to have himself surrounded with, or desire to have himself surrounded with people who actually know what the fuck they're doing. This is what happens when you have an insecure person in leadership who, because his ego can't handle him being checked by people who actually know more than he does, he surrounds himself with idiots. So he surrounds himself with idiots so he can be the head idiot in charge. And what happens? Then you have what we have right now. You have a nation run by idiots that make idiotic decisions. And when you are making idiotic decisions at this level, people die. People die. So I'm glad you finally come to your senses, idiots. But it's a little late for those 170 some little girls. It's a little late for those American soldiers. It's a little late for those 1,000+ civilians that have been killed as part of this. It's a little late for all that. Was it worth it, Donald Trump, to have us diverted for a few days while they released the Epstein files that you were implicated in terms of allegedly committing sexual assault against a 13-year-old? Was it worth it? Was it worth all those lives? Listen, I'm one of those people who believes that he didn't actually win. I'm one of the people that believes that Elon Musk interfered with the election. I also believe that the Democrats aren't bold enough to fight. And so here we are left with this fool. But if anything, this should make all of us that much more empowered and determined to go out and push to create change. Meaning a couple of things. In the long term, somewhat, I would say medium term, obviously the midterms. But in the short terms, I would also like to say we have power right now. The whole reason why Kristi Noem is no longer the head of DHS, which I have to say I'm not very encouraged about her replacement. I mean, he's just as unqualified as she was, probably even more unqualified than she was. He has no background in his past that suggests he would have a clue how to do that job either, but that's consistent with everybody else that he has in his cabinet. But the whole reason why she's gone, y'all, people are saying it's because of the commercial. That may have been the very last thing that pushed it over the edge. But I want you all to know the reason why she is gone is because the American people ratcheted the heat up on her, given all the stuff that had been happening with ICE. And there was so much pressure around that. That's what led to the hearings. That's what led to her getting her ass handed to her at those hearings. And that's what led to her ultimately getting fired. And if we had the power to do that, we have the power to do it again and again and again. We don't have to wait until the elections. In the meantime, though, a couple of things. We do need to be concerned about the elections because, like I said, I believe they stole it last time, and I know for a fact they're going to try to steal this one. This is what's behind all of the momentum behind the SAVE Act. You heard him in the press conference today in real time trying to rebrand the SAVE Act to make it sound a little bit more appealing to people that are intellectually challenged, shall we say? Okay. So once again, I want to remind you the SAVE Act is not how they're branding it. It's not just merely about voter ID. It's not just merely about you proving you're a citizen. It's about disenfranchising millions of women. It's about disenfranchising millions of people who do not have passports and who either cannot afford passports or because they have intentionally, because one thing I can tell about these people, they plan. I will give them that. They are very strategic in what they do, like his puppet masters, not him personally, but his puppet masters. All right. They have already cut the passport agencies, meaning that if you apply for a passport now, it's going to take even longer to get it. And just imagine what it would be like if now all of a sudden millions of people who didn't have passports would need to have a passport in order to vote. And everybody's applying for it at the same time with less people there to process the passports. Good luck in getting it in time. They've already changed the rules with regards to mail-in voting. They are doing everything they can to take your right to vote away from you. We have to overperform so much in November that it is not even close. We have got to take power away from them as fast as humanly possible. Somebody said something about Steve Miller. Lord, let me put my glasses on, y'all, because y'all know I can't see a damn thing without my glasses. But whoever said that, I need to give you a high five, because that man is evil. Because I know whatever you said wasn't. Get Steve Miller out. Absolutely right, Yvonne. I saw that. I could barely see anything, but I saw that. She's exactly right. Get Steve Miller with his Nazi ass. It's really odd. How are you Jewish and a Nazi at the same time? I don't know. Well, I do know, but I will say that white supremacist Steve Miller gotta freaking go. He gotta go. He gotta go, because he's the architect behind all this. Even today, if you were to watch this press conference again, you guys, I only saw it once. I just saw it live, and I was like, oh my God, I got to come on here and talk about it. But if you were to go back and watch it again, he even mentioned today about reasoning in terms of going in this war in the first place. He said, Stevie, yeah, like Stevie said. I'm like, okay, he's talking about Steve Miller. So y'all, Steve Miller's running the damn country. He is. Between him and Putin, it's like Trump is the on-air talent. He's vacuous up here. He don't have it up here. So he's not coming up with the shit. Okay. It's Steve Miller and Putin who is telling his ignorant ass what to do on a day-to-day basis. And this time he got a little over his skis because he was listening to Stephen Miller and Netanyahu. Okay. And didn't go to Daddy Putin to get permission, apparently. He just went on ahead over his skis and he got all hyped and he thought he could do it. He didn't think about what would happen to the gas prices. He didn't think about what would happen to the stock market. He didn't give a fuck about what would happen to people's lives. Clearly, that never, he don't care about that. That's like a video game to him, as they have shown. And now that you've gone on out here like the big bad wolf and found out that actually you're on the menu. Now all of a sudden you got to sit here and try to declare victory and pick up your toys and run your ass back home. I just hope we haven't opened up a Pandora's box that we will be feeling the effects of for years because of this fool. We've had a nice long run in this country where we haven't had attacks. We haven't really been targeted like that in a while. There was something that happened with Mayor Mandami's yesterday at his house, and the people that they arrested, they claimed they were with Al-Qaeda, I think. Or no, ISIS. They claimed they were with ISIS. So, I don't know to what extent that's going to bear out in terms of the full investigation, or, if that had any roots with what's going on right now with Iran. But, the allegation is that they have terror cells all over the country. Did he not care that by doing what he did, that would put all of our lives in danger? Actually, the answer to that would be no, because he already told us he doesn't care. And when he was asked about it specifically, he said, I guess. When it comes to war, people die. So that's who he is. That's who he is. The cowardly lion has decided he's going to crawl back into his little den. Now that he's gone out enough to find out, oh, shit, they ready to fight. It's easy to beat up on a little fishing boat out in the Caribbean that can't shoot back. Now they're going to turn their attention to Cuba that doesn't really have the military might. It's easy to do something to a place like that. All right. This is a classic example of when the bully fucks with the wrong person on a national scale. I just hope he hasn't done. And what's really sad, as I mentioned, is that people have lost their lives and there's no replacing that. There is no replacement for that. It is disgusting. Here's the last thing I will say about this. When the Democrats get control of this government again, knock on wood, I literally, they have got, once again, and we have to push them. Here's one thing I found out about the Democratic Party. Listen, I am one who, I make choices. As an adult, I make choices. I weigh the pros and cons of the choices in front of me. Most times, not all the time, but most times, the Democrats do things that makes more sense to me in terms of the impacts that it would have on my life, my children, this country, that is in alignment with my values and what I agree with over what Republicans offer. Most times, not all the time. I'll be the first to admit that. But here's one thing I will say: what this particular administration here got to go. And not only do they have to go, they need to be in jail. But the only way we're going to get them in jail is that we must require that of the Democratic Party once they get back in power. We cannot have any more of this little mealy mouth, let the bygones be bygones shit. People must go to jail. This needs to be a key point that we put. As I would argue, it needs to be like a specific demand that every candidate is judged by. Will you bring charges against Donald Trump? Will you bring charges against Pam Bondi? Will you bring charges? Hey, we haven't even forgot about Kristi Noem. She might not have her job anymore, but the people that they killed are still dead. Will you bring charges against Kristi Noem? People need to go to jail. Period. Even as we sit here tonight, just because, as I mentioned, just because he's decided that he's gotten enough of what's going on right now and he wants to pull out of the war, once again, I'm glad. I don't want this war. I never wanted it in the first place. But he's already caused damage that puts all of our lives in danger. Do you hear what I'm saying? He has made all of our lives less safe in our own country because of what he did. Even if Iran had nuclear weapons, they do not have the technology to shoot it all the way over here to us. But they do have, according to our intelligence community, terror cells that are over here right now. And and that had been dormant. That had been dormant. Now, what do you think they're thinking about? Do you think they might want to have avenge the life of their leader? Do you think they might want to avenge the lives of those little girls? Do you think they might want to avenge the lives of the people who will suffer because of what environmental damage that's been done to that whole country? He's put all of our lives in danger. He needs to go to jail. Anybody who is running for office, that will be the one question I want them to answer. And it will be a litmus test question for me. And if the answer is no, that you are not going to do all that you can do in order to make sure that we get justice from this criminal administration, then you're not getting the vote. It needs to be that serious. The Democratic Party, what I have found in my connection with it and being in and around it, I would say around it for the past umpteen decades, is they are by and large lead followers and not leaders. And what I mean by that is they are very they are very very they want a focus group and poll everything to death. Okay. So they want to know what their constituents think. They don't think like, I am going to take initiative and then convince the electorate about why this is good for you. Or I'm going to try to convince you of why this is good, and then I'm going to take action. They don't do that typically. Typically, what they do is well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? What do you think? And then they try to implement. And so what I am telling you is, it is up to us to put the pressure on them to do what they need to do. And if you are like me, very disappointed in the passiveness of a lot of the elected officials right now, it's because of that. It's because of what I just laid out. Their DNA is not one of, I'm going to go out and do it. I'm going to go out and act. Their DNA is, well, what do people think? Well, should I? Might I? What are they going to think? What are they going to think? What are they going to think? Don't even make them wonder. Tell them, let them know over and over again, because this fool has put your life, your children's lives in danger, and somebody's children are dead right now. A lot of people's children are dead right now because of what this fool just did. With that said, and when I'm saying children, I'm saying American and children in Iran. So with that said, you guys, they sure do. Hey, LaShawn, good to see you. I'm just ready for a better president, logical, ethical administration. Gregory, you said it all, my dear. So are we. So are we all. You right about that. Well, with that said, you guys, I just had to vent. So I just came on the vent and let you know about, Trump waving his little white flag, sticking his little tail between his legs and trying to run back into the White House and act like this was just an excursion. Now that he done made Papa Putin mad at him, he decided he want to pick up his little toys and go home. But in the midst of it all, he done put us all in danger. Hold them accountable. Get them the hell out of office. All right, you guys, have a good evening. I'll check with y'all later. Bye. You are most welcome. Bye, everybody.